Hey, it looks like we are officially live. So, for those of you watching in playback, hey, welcome. And we'll take some time to let people join. But I just thought, Saturday morning, let's hang out and talk about some of our favorite artists and, who knows where else the morning is going to take us. I don't know. For those of you that are watching, I did rearrange my office. I got a new bookshelf and a lot of new books. Not all my books are here; only about half of them have arrived so far. There's a bunch more being shipped, so this place is going to be filled with a lot of books pretty soon. Here, we got some people trickling in. Welcome, 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 welcome. Feel free to pop in the chat, and we'll just hang out. I don't really have a plan on what we're going to talk about. If you didn't know, today's the big Bengals playoff game. They haven't won a playoff game in my lifetime, so I'm really nervous and excited. I hope they can win. Army Mom OT7, hi. Welcome back. Good to see your name pop up. I hope you're well. Good morning, Quo Dahlia from Canada. Good morning. Where in Canada? I've never been. I want to go. I want to go to Canada. I don't know. Where should I go if I go to Canada? Yeah, feel free to pop in the chat and we can hang out. We can do Q&As. You can ask. I've got some new stuff in here, some new things that I brought back from Christmas with my family. I've got some new books. I've got all kinds of stuff. We can just hang out and chat and stuff. I also have a little bit of a game that I want to play later, but we need to get more people to join before we do that. This is a brand new drink at my local coffee shop, the Junkin' Java. And it's a campfire latte, so that's pretty exciting. I'm pretty excited. It's all pretty great. Victoria, British Columbia. That's where you are, Codalia. I'm gonna look up where that is because I don't know Canada. Victoria, British. At least I knew what BC meant, right? That's a big win. Let's see. Oh, that's like way over there. Wow. You're like by Seattle. I didn't know where that was. Thank you. Army Mom calling me out. Fix your posture. My apologies. Posture is fixed. That's a good point. Yes, I speaking of healthy, part of the reason that I've kind of struggled with getting YouTube videos out is I've been filming and traveling, but the film that I was working on got halted. Production was halted due to COVID, and luckily it sounds like everybody's healthy, but I tested negative multiple times and I'm okay. I'm flying Monday to Virginia to start working on a film. But I've gotten, I think, 8 tests already in 2022, eight COVID tests. So it's been an adventure trying to do that and keep doing what I love. So it's a year so far, but I keep testing negative, so I'm doing well so far. Kodalia, you're a Martian and a Hua Chen Yu fan. Yep, those are two. Hua Chen Yu's quite good. Martians are Hua Chen Yu fans, right? Like I'm not nuts. That's what y'all call yourselves. Mahin Siddiqui. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Good evening from Dubai. Good evening. That's the crazy thing about when we do these lives is I get to see like all the people that are here from where they are. It's like borderline inconceivable to me, like this idea that we're in so many different places. Yes, Bethany, I saw that there's going to be a lot of ice and snow. I guess it's not supposed to be as much where I'm going, is my understanding. I've been told that I shouldn't be too concerned, but we'll see. It's overnight shoots, like they're going to be outside at night, so I'm no, you do what you love, and I'm grateful to be doing what I love. It's a fun script. It's going to be a really good time. And then I guess early February I'm going to go back and finish the one that got halted due to the virus getting into the crew there. So, which again, everybody's okay. So that's great news, and I'll get to go finish that. And I don't even know what's coming up after that. There's so many different things kind of circling overhead. It's a really, really fun adventure. Part of the reason, by the way, that I haven't gotten any reactions out lately is I had a lot of editing projects I needed to finish up like on a professional level. Now I try to treat YouTube professionally, but I had like films I needed to finish editing with deadlines and some scripts that I needed to finish. And then I really needed to clear my cache. So in my editing software, it saves kind of memories of what had happened. And so every caption that I add in a YouTube video, every moment I put SETI in, whatever, it all kind of leaves a ghost in the memory of my CPU. And so I went to delete that yesterday after I finally got everything done. So I cleared the cache, and it was like over 100,000 items that had to be deleted. So I knew I needed to wait until I had all of that done to actually record any new videos. So ideally, I will be recording some, I'm hoping tomorrow afternoon. Basically, when I'm done with this video, I'm going to be doing nothing but pacing around my apartment because of the Bengals playoff game. I'm going to be too nervous. So I don't think my reactions are going to be very good. I have 2 auditions to shoot, but then it's going to be, my focus is going to turn to there for the day. But then hopefully tomorrow I can shoot some reactions and get those done. And I'll be able to edit when I'm at the airport and at the hotel, when I'm not filming. So hopefully we'll get some new videos out soon. I got some BTS, some more Watching You, some more Dimash, some more of all the artists we love, maybe some new artists as well. We'll see. Lena 808 Water Wings. Hello, hello, hello. Back to Hawaii. I was just seeing University of Hawaii, their head coach resigned, the football team. He didn't seem great. So yeah. So aloha back. Hello, hello. And Alexia, yes, thank you for understanding that I do have a life outside YouTube. However, I do love YouTube, and I don't like having to kind of put that to the side. You know what I mean? So it's really cool when I can actually do it because I like doing it. But again, because their reactions, a lot of them get copywritten, so I can't, again, being blunt, like the financial side of it, it's not the most lucrative thing. So I have to like do the things that help pay for things. But I still do love it, and I love the way it pushes me creatively, and I love the communication and the relationship that we all have. So that is really, really great. Joyce, thank you for stopping in. I understand you have to go to work. Have a great day at work. Thank you so much. Thank you. You also have a blessed and safe day. Please, please, please. Fern, welcome, welcome. It's wonderful to see your name pop up. Ramute Druvitien. I'm so sorry. But hello, back to Lithuania. You're Dimash, a dear. Terrific. Minch, hello back to California. I hope that you guys aren't getting too many waves. I don't know. Did you guys see this volcano that erupted this morning? I like woke up and got on Twitter and saw like the video of it, and wow. I mean, that's scary. I guess like the gas and like smoke and everything went 10.5 miles into the air, which is really high. That's very high up. That's really high. Okay, so we have 23 people. So again, if we wanted, a volcano, Minch, a volcano. There was an underwater volcano. I guess the closest island that's like major was Tonga. So I saw the tsunami waves hitting them. I saw a video of that, but like, yeah, it's wild. Yeah, you could like hear the explosions from the island. It is very scary. Very scary. Like the concept of volcanoes terrify me. Like the idea that there's just mountains that are just kind of really like anxious and filled with that and ready to explode at any moment. And what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Wow. Yeah, they're very scary. So I thought, hey, maybe we could do like a Q&A if people have any questions. I know we haven't done one in a while. I got a lot of new books for Christmas if you wanted to ask about those. Or films, or like technique, or how to like develop stories for screenplays. Or I know we have a lot of people with a lot of interests, and I know that my channel in particular has attracted people that are interested in the technical side of things beyond just normal reaction. A lot of it's you guys are interested in why I talk about where the lights are, or talking about what a camera movement might be there for, or things like that. And so I didn't know if anybody had any questions about that they wanted to toss out, or just about my life, or about, the artists on a favorite song or something like that. I don't know. I just thought we could do that. So if anybody has any of that, just toss it in the chat, kind of open range, ask what you will, and I'll answer it as best I am able. And we'll hang out. Is it Remute? I'm glad that you're proud. I'm sure that I completely ruined your name, but I did try my best. So that should count for something. I can't skip Portugal. It's on the edge of Europe. I do want to go to Portugal. Minch, you've learned so much and you know nothing about cinematography. Well, I hope that you learned something about cinematography. I hope that I'm helping with that. And if you have any questions about cinematography, now's a great time to ask. I just was a camera operator on a film like 3 weeks ago, one that I was directing. So, Maheen, what books am I reading right now? I am reading 2 books right now. So my like nonfiction one, I don't read a ton of nonfiction, as I think you guys know, but I'm reading one that's just a collection of Shakespeare essays that is on one of these shelves somewhere. Yes, Living with Shakespeare. So it's got essays from some of the world's greatest Shakespeare scholars and actors and directors. And so I'm reading that just kind of intermittently, taking in a few essays at a time. And then I'm also reading a fantasy series called the Thessaly Trilogy. So in the first book, it's Athena and Apollo, the Greek gods, try to set up Plato's Republic in a city. And then sort of the ramifications of that are followed over the next 2 books. So I'm a bit over halfway through the second book and really liking it. It's not my normal style of book. It's very philosophical. I just reread, where are they? They're in here somewhere. The Percy Jackson books, which are down here on this bookshelf. I just reread those 5. And so going from like middle school fantasy to like this high level, like philosophically based fantasy was whoa. And I think next I'm going to read the Broken Earth trilogy, which I got for Christmas, which is right here. I'm getting all the Wheel of Time books, and I got the Ember and the Ashes series and the Children of Blood and Bone, and I got a bunch. I got 43 books for Christmas. 46 actually, because I bought Little Women and Pride and Prejudice and the Canterbury Tales. So I've got so much reading to do. I'm so excited. Thank you for asking, Maheen. I was really hoping someone would ask me that. I'm very excited about all of them. Please feel free to ask me more questions about books. Pretend you didn't hear that first part. Let's see. Fern, do I have an absolute favorite film in an artistic sense? My favorite film is Moulin Rouge, and certainly the artistry of it is a huge aspect of that. But if you're talking like purely like my favorite film from a technical standpoint, I don't think that's probably Moulin Rouge. That's tough because they're all so different. I think probably the most technically perfect film, like my favorite film as far as this is so intentional about every aspect of it, is the Grand Budapest Hotel. It's Wes Anderson, so some people think it's like too stylized or too technical or too perfect, but that's what I love about it is every camera movement is so perfectly done. The production design is exquisite, the timing, the edit, just everything about it. Wes Anderson in general, but especially Grand Budapest Hotel to me was like peak stylized. You know, I just think it's really really good. To go in a very very different direction, I keep finding myself coming back to Nomadland and A Ghost Story, which are 2 very slow films. They're not as like energetic and everything, but I really really buy into that. Minch, have I read Station 11? Actually, no, I don't have it in here right now, but Station 11 is my favorite novel. I read it for a college class back in 2014, maybe 2015, like right as it came out. And I fell in love with it. I've read it multiple times. I really wanted to play Tyler when they did adapt it. Obviously, that didn't happen because HBO just released the last episode of it this week. I loved the adaptation. And I adore the book. Station 11 is my favorite novel. My second favorite is The Great Gatsby, which is somewhere in here. Where? No, it's downstairs. I took it downstairs. Yes. So Great Gatsby is my second favorite, but yeah, Station 11 is my absolute favorite. I'm so glad you asked about that. Zach Throne, everybody, the producer of Kadia, The World Within, and one of my besties. Bengals versus Raiders score prediction. Yeah, I'm going to say Bengals 38, Raiders 24. I'm going to say it. They're going to break their 30-year drought. Bengals have not won a playoff game in my lifetime, and they're going to break it today. And if they do, I will cry. And if they don't, I will also cry. Two very, very different tears. Yes, Wes Anderson, shout out Sapphire. I love Wes Anderson. I love the intentionality of it. It is not my directing style. Like, I don't think I would ever make a film like that, but I so deeply admire it. Like, Fantastic Mr. Fox is absolutely incredible. Yeah, Fern, you should. You should. They're really good. Love Wes Anderson. It's very specific. I need to see The French Dispatch. I haven't seen it yet. I've heard it's one of the best films of the year. I just watched The Power of the Dog on Netflix, and I really liked that. What else have I watched recently? I've tried to catch up on some of the new films. I'm not very good at watching movies as they come out. I kind of struggle with doing that. I like wait until the next year. I saw In the Heights when it came out. I think that's going to be a Best Picture nomination, and it should be. I saw Tick Tick Boom. Like musicals, I tend to see, obviously. Yeah. What is the one? Oh, Macbeth is coming to our local like indie theater, so I'm gonna see it there. I need to see Macbeth. I have a feeling that that's gonna quickly become one of my favorite movies. Shakespeare, Peter Ackroyd's Shakespeare biography. Brian, I haven't heard of that. I'm gonna have to check that out. I've read a couple of the books just about his life, but I feel like he's such a fascinating character. Shakespeare has achieved this level of mythos that you put on a pedestal with Plato and Aristotle, and this is almost a mythical character. Like there's the real Shakespeare, and then there's the Shakespeare that we borderline worship, right? And so there's like the guy who like had to eat meals and like go to the bathroom and stuff, and like that's Shakespeare. And then there's the guy that wrote Hamlet, and the actor and the playwright that wrote these incredible plays and studies on the human spirit and the human condition that have survived 500 years and only been emboldened by those 500 years, only been proven right over those 500 years. The fact that you can place Macbeth in a modern situation and you're like, yeah, this totally checks out. Same with Caesar, same with Midsummer Night's Dream. Like that's yes. Jeremy Z, favorite series movies from Asia. I mean, Parasite. Parasite's Parasite would also be on the list of most technically brilliant films I've ever seen. 1917. Those are the three I was thinking of. I couldn't think of the other two. 1917 and Parasite. Both very, very high on that list of Grand Budapest Hotel as far as sheer perfection. So I think Parasite's probably my favorite. I haven't, to be honest with you, watched a ton of Asian content, and I would like to. That's something I want to start moving into. I didn't grow up watching a lot of foreign films like most Americans. I watched American stuff, and then I watched, what was the first foreign film really that I sat down and watched? I guess Pan's Labyrinth really was the first one where I was like, I'm going to watch something not from here. And I was like, whoa, this is one of the best films I've ever seen. And then I saw Roma and loved it, and Parasite and loved it. And I'm sure I've seen others, but they're great. Yes, Minch, I think it's Moonrise Kingdom, but yeah, Moonrise Kingdom, brilliant film. Alexia, yes, I did see Encanto. I really, really liked it. I really liked that. Maheen, I did see the Harry Potter reunion. It was so interesting seeing. Oh, Bethany, you were locked out of your car. Oh no, I'm glad you got in. Gosh. Maheen, I did see the Harry Potter reunion. For those of you that don't know, James Phelps, who played Fred Weasley, was in my first film, Kid the World Within, which Zach produced, and which Shalette Jackson is here. Shalette Jackson was the producer on that film. So James was in the movie, so I got to know him. So seeing him in that was really, really cool, and got to meet Oliver. We hung out with James and Oliver when they came to Philadelphia to do a Comic-Con. We got dinner with them, and they're both really, really cool dudes. So seeing them in that was really fascinating to me. Like just knowing him outside of that universe. Like obviously I knew him. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, but knowing him outside of that as someone that I directed and also someone that I've just gotten to know was really, really interesting. Johnny, thank you. Yes, my Bengals are looking much, much better than me. I'm very excited about them. I'm going to be crushed if they lose. Maheen, do I buy into the theory that Shakespeare was not one person, but a persona encompassing works by a group of writers? This is a complex question. I do not. I think Shakespeare was a writer, was a person, and almost all of the plays are authored by him. I do think that. I think most of the theories that they aren't are probably people that just think it's impossible that someone could be that good as a writer. And sometimes there's just genius. You know what I mean? Like we don't really question that Beethoven wrote all of Beethoven's works, or Mozart or Handel, right? Or uh, I don't know, Sondheim, right? I would put Stephen Sondheim on that level. Like we knew Sondheim wrote all that. So why do we struggle to see that Shakespeare wouldn't have? Well, we look at variations in his writing style and word choices and plot development. Well, what if he just developed over time? He wasn't writing at a time where there were a lot of textbooks on how to write a play. He was experimenting and learning and going and seeing other plays and finding out new stories and having to change things for different stages as they were moving about, or because his patrons said, hey, take this character out. So I think he was just developing and learning about himself. And that's why The Tempest is so beautiful, is because The Tempest is his goodbye. Now, I don't necessarily think he wrote everything by himself. And I think maybe there are a few that are attributed to him that maybe weren't by him, or maybe he did early drafts of, or maybe he finished after someone else did early drafts. I know some of the histories. It's been rumored that he worked with other authors. Obviously, Marlowe is one of the key players in that. But I tend to think that Shakespeare wrote most of what we attribute Shakespeare to. I just think it's really hard for us, especially in modern times, to say, hey, a guy that didn't even get a high school education could write something this brilliant. Well, what if he was just a genius? Like he was very smart, and that's all it is. Shalette, I'm so happy you're here. Hi, Shalette. This makes me happy. Deborah, I have not seen Cinema Paradiso. I have not, but I will add that to my list. Cinema Paradise, I guess, movie paradise, something to that effect. I don't know. But keep it coming. Any more questions about really anything? Any of the books I have, any of the things on my wall, if you want to know what things are, everything like that. If you have any questions about like how movies are made, you've got a director right here and 2 producers in the live chat. So that's pretty exciting. If you want to, you have thoughts on like how do screenplays, get written or anything like that. Again, I'm not like, I've written screenplays, one of which or 2 of which have been produced. And I've got others that are in the works, but I'm not the world's leading expert. But I can offer thoughts and advice and what I've learned along the way. If anybody has any questions on that, Shalette. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you. I got to tell you guys, when I started this channel, first, I didn't expect it to be big. We're approaching 25,000 subscribers, which is wild. But I also didn't really, I guess what has been really cool for me with the channel. Hi, Ring Wraith. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I guess what's been really cool for me is, like I'm a person that hasn't always been the most confident in myself, which maybe you're like laughing because you've seen my videos and you're like, nah. But like, no, I deal a lot with self-doubt, and especially in this industry, like a lot of imposter syndrome and thinking like, oh, am I good enough? And like recently I've really been dealing with this idea that like as an actor, I'm 27 and I've played high school roles recently, but like I'm aging out of being able to play high school. Like I can't play high schoolers as much anymore. I can still play older college students, but like I'm aging out of that. And so there's a bit of a ticking clock happening in my head. Like I'm getting into the young father roles and everything like that. And so that ticking clock can transfer itself over to me as a director and feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough. I need to be better. I haven't done enough. And I was recently reminded by somebody in Hollywood who's like a person, like very good, who said, hey, you need to remember that like as an actor, yeah, you are kind of growing out of high school roles. And there is that ticking clock. Like that is a thing that like is going to be with you. But as a director, you're still like an infant in Hollywood. Like you're 27. And so it's easy for me to kind of slip into this realm of like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not, ultimately what it comes down to is me saying I'm not enough. And that's something I've always tried to check within myself. But, how do I really say that? I guess this channel has helped me realize that like, I do know what I'm doing. And I do know what I'm talking about, and it's okay to make mistakes or to not feel like that, because ultimately I do and I am. You know what I mean? And so I just want to like thank all of you for being a part of this journey and for being there through that and for caring about like what I have to say and enjoying the music that you enjoy and exposing me to new artists like BTS. The cinematography of BTS's videos has given me a lot of ideas on how to shoot things, but also like the way they tell a story visually without using much language. It's exposed me to all these new ways of lighting a scene or of using hyper realism, especially with the Bangtan universe, or Dimash just being kind of, and this isn't a bad thing, but being kind of over dramatic in his music videos, but it matches what he's doing vocally. And also, like, I learn a lot from Dimash vocally, or Hua Chen Yu, just like how captivating he is on stage, or Blackpink with their confidence and breaking down of we don't have to be what the industry says. Everybody that I've reviewed, Aurora, right? Just the raw intentionality of what she's doing. They have all helped me grow as an artist, and that has been really, really cool. Johnny, do you live in New Haven? Because I only live like an hour from New Haven, so that's kind of wild. No, I haven't seen a warm greetings from cold Siberia. It's also very cold here in Rhode Island. I have not seen a Russian movie, but I should check some out. There's one that I want to watch. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a shot that I've seen from it that's this brilliant long trucking crane shot through a crowd that I need to see the whole thing. Shalette, what lends you to decide what script will be produced next? Opportunity. If one's done, then I go, let me do that, so it's ultimately a situation of, do we have actors available, as trying to get people attached, and is there money that's available, what time of year does it take place, because we can't afford to go create trees in the winter or something that have leaves on them. So a lot of it's just circumstantial. We were working on various projects, and COVID hit. And so that kind of delayed that. And so we moved into looking in other directions, and still have that project obviously being developed. And we have some great actors attached, as and working on how to keep that going. And so I guess it's ultimately like a situation of what feels right, like which one's calling to my heart. So like the two that we're working on right now, for whatever reason, are really speaking to me, especially during the pandemic. They're both kind of dealing with themes of grief and pain. You know what I mean? And so that's I guess that's kind of where I'm at, is like, how do we reconcile grief and pain with hope and joy? Like, how do we hold all four of those truths at once and not in conflict? And if they are in conflict, how do we find peace in that conflict, is kind of where my head's at right now, versus the one that I'm about to start. Like, there's 3 projects that I'm kind of circling, 4, actually 5 scripts that I'm kind of circling right now. And they're all about different things, like all completely different from that. And so I guess maybe I'm moving in a new direction, and I'm not quite sure what those scripts are telling me right now. But, Shalette, this, and I think people have heard me say this on this channel before, but when I do the first drafts of a screenplay, that's the story I want to write, is what I write. And then I kind of put it down for a week, 2 weeks. And then I come back and I kind of, I read the script, but it's more a situation of the script telling me what the story is at that point. Like, it's no longer what I wanted to tell. It's more a situation of what I can learn from the script and what story is the script trying to tell. And that is what it becomes. Duyin 2, hi, welcome. Hua Chen Yu is extraordinary, and I'm glad that you've enjoyed my reactions so far. Minch, yes, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I've considered doing movies, but there's a couple of reasons that I haven't. The biggest one being time consuming. Like, my reactions to music videos, which are 3 minutes long, are, they take anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. So a movie would be tough. And the other reason is, like, I want to stay away from things that I might work for. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but working in the industry, I kind of want to stay away from TV and movies for a variety of reasons. I tend to not criticize anyway. Like, luckily, I don't watch things that are really that I would criticize or that I dislike. Like, I've genuinely enjoyed everything I've ever reacted to. And that's something I try to do anyways, enjoy whatever I'm watching. But I don't know. Does that make sense? I don't want to accidentally burn any bridges that I might need to cross. Does that make sense? uh, Shalette, emotional connection helps direct me. Yeah, so that's really interesting. As a director, you need to direct yourself, and everybody has different directing styles. I think because I came into directing, and you know this from watching my reactions. Any of you that have seen any of my reactions, whether they're live performances or music videos or whatever, you've probably seen that my eye goes to the actor and the intention behind it rather than necessarily framing or movement immediately. It's more about like what story are they trying to tell, and I think that's because I came into directing from acting. The reason I got into directing was in college. I wanted to do films, and I was going to school with some people that were just brilliant filmmakers. And I kind of went, well, I want to play this part. And so I'd write the script and then I would just direct it, and they would run camera and sound and we would all get better together. And I think that's the best thing a young actor or director can do is just go make stuff and make bad stuff and create it, but kind of discover yourself. And so lately I've been able to be a lot more technical. I've been able to run my own camera. The last two films, three things, I guess. Last three things I've directed, I was also one of the camera operators, and I was the director of photography on two of them. Four things, actually. The last four things, I've also run camera. And so pushing myself in that direction. And, how does my emotional connection help direct me? Well, the thing with a story is no matter what the genre is, whether it's, sorry, there's a gnat. It's January. You should be gone. It flew into my mouth. Cool. Great. That was good. Got that on live. Love that for me. Sorry. Time out. So the way that my emotion helps connect me is because at the heart of every story, whether it is Godzilla or Star Wars or Grand Budapest Hotel or Parasite or Nomadland, what it is how are you connecting with the emotions of the audience? It all comes down to a story about X. Everything is a story about something, belief, a story about hope, a story about regret, a story about loss, a story about feelings of melancholy, of despair, of joy. And you have to find the emotions of those scenes. And so for me, it comes down to first making sure that's on the page in the script. Like that has to be present in the script or it will not be present in the actors. It will not be present in the camera. It will not be present in the audio mix. The emotional intention of the story has to be in the script. Then I put it in the actors. The actors have to have it. They have to believe it. It has to be in their eyes. Then how can we enhance what they're doing with the camera? Now, of course, you don't usually see the actors before you play them with the camera. So you have to anticipate how you're planning to direct with what you're going to do with the camera. And what eventually surprises you then is you do all this planning and then you decide, okay, we're going to do a push in with the camera. We're going to do a dolly in. We're going to get closer to them. And they do something that surprises you and you react. There's something you have to adjust. And often that leads to a moment of authenticity. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it leads to, hey, okay, they totally left frame or we totally missed that. But now we have to adjust. And it becomes a sort of dance where ultimately what you're trying to do is work with the camera and with the sound mixer and with the grips and gaffs that are moving lights around and with the set designer who's moving a picture frame and with the actors that now you're going, okay, well, I know we marked you here so you could be in a light, but now I need you to go a half step this way so we can get this camera movement so I can get just a little bit of her shoulder in the frame. You have to adjust all these things so that all of you are working together to achieve one distinct emotional moment. And the whole purpose behind that is to get the audience to feel that. And what's really important is you can't tell the audience what to feel. you have to make them feel it, right? And so if we really lean into that, if we really breathe into that, then the audience naturally will. And you're not always going to nail it. And sometimes the audience might be checked out, they may not be into it. But if everybody's really jiving with that, then that's there. And Gillette reference, I also watch the reactions of people behind the camera when a scene is in action. That's important to me. Is this funny? Is this scene emotional? Is it working? Because sometimes I can get in my own head and think, yeah, this is working, and it's not. And sometimes there's things you can't control. Sometimes there's things where, well, that wasn't as intense as I thought it was. Well, okay, how can we add that with music then? How can we add more tension? How can we add more romance? How can we add more comedy? What can we cut earlier to this other shot? Or can we add something in the sound mix that's going to help make this land? It's a constant series of adjusting and making mistakes and living in those mistakes. Obviously, you want to mitigate that, but the whole point of making films and the reason that films will never be, I believe this fully within my heart, is like technology is advancing so quickly that there's people that think that films will be made entirely by computers. And I don't think that's ever going to happen, because human error is necessary in filmmaking. Like the little bit of a jiggle, you see how like I'm bouncing and my camera's jiggling a little bit? Like that is a part of our DNA that's baked into our experience of watching things, is an actor hesitating or the camera just being having to adjust as it goes. And that's what sucks us into the moment. When everything is too perfect, that's where it gets that plastic feel where you're like, hey, this isn't, like, there's something off about this. When everybody's jiving and being okay with the mistakes and then doing what they can to fix it, but everybody's living in the moment. You have to be in the moment. And if you're not, then I just don't think what you're going to get is going to be authentic. I hope that makes sense. Ofasa 1776. Yes, I try to be positive and encouraging, because like being an artist is hard and putting things out in the world is hard. And you think about like BTS, for example, the biggest group in the world, the most famous 7 guys in the world, right? Like the pressure that they're under, and probably they aren't always happy with everything that they've made. And you have to, like, I feel like maybe they watch my videos. I'd be thrilled if they did. And maybe they're watching this and, hey, what's up, Jermaine, call me. But I think it's really hard to make things, and it's really hard to put yourself out there at any level, whether it's, a low budget, no budget short film or $1 million music video or something. Like it's hard, and it's painful, and it's scary, and it's vulnerable. And, if I can help that would be great. Yes, Omira Terror. I know that's on the list of Dimash videos I need to react to. So for sure. Ring Wraith, unrelated to what you're talking about, but as a theater kid, do I have any fun stories or memorable moments with the crew or stage manager of a show that I'm working on? I do. I've really had some, I was really blessed to work in college at a theater that wasn't necessarily the world's top of the line theater school. And if anybody from Capital is watching, I don't mean that as an insult. I mean, it was such a blessing, because we were all just a bunch of kids that weren't there to prove anything or to go make it on Broadway or anything. We were there because we loved it and we wanted to have fun. And some of my favorite memories came from that. Crave Trance. I know who Crave Trance is. Hi, Cal. Hi, Cal. That's my friend from Washington. How are you, buddy? Ian. That's great. Yeah. So, what was I saying? Memories that I've loved. One was Peter and the Starcatcher, which is a terrific play. I was playing Blackstash, and Katie Hott is a great person. Working with Katie on Peter and the Starcatcher was just really almost entrancing. She's one of the funniest people I've ever known, and one of the best comedic actors I've ever seen. She is absolutely hysterical, and she was playing Smee, right? So I'm Blackstash, she becomes Captain Hook. She's playing Smee, and we would do, and the director trusted us. Professor Kennedy, rest in peace, a man that I deeply love and admired, and who made me the director and actor that I am. He would trust us, and so there'd be things where like I would jump on her back, and she would piggyback me in, and he'd be like, "Keep it," and even stuff where we messed up, like or it wasn't good or whatever, like he would just let us do it. Other fun memories, I was in Xanadu, which is how I broke my wrist. And also that's how I found out that I had cancer, was because I was practicing my roller skating and fell. And they had to do an x-ray and found the hole in the bone. Wow. But I never did learn how to roller skate. So when I was doing Xanadu, I would stand off stage like at the wall, and I would just push myself onto the stage and just roll into a set piece because I couldn't figure out how to roller skate. So that's a fun memory. Sunset Boulevard, when I just did that, of course, Ian out in Washington, that's how we met. We would have fun where Ben, the stage manager, added BTS and Dimash to the pre-show playlist. And so we would come in and he'd put on Butter and we'd like dance to it and sing to it. And that was always really, really fun. I always enjoyed, like, I would get there early. I would usually be the first one there so I could sing through some of my songs and kind of practice my blocking and everything. And Ben would always be there and we just joke and have a good time. And that was really relaxing because, as Ian knows, Sunset Boulevard was really, really, it was, it's a big role that I was playing and a lot of responsibility. And especially when we would do like 2 show days, that would be like, I'd have to get myself to a certain place mentally. And Ben was really good at helping me kind of relax and take the pressure off so that I could then settle in and put the like positive pressure on myself, if that makes sense. So, those are some stories. I'm sure there was stuff in high school that we had fun with too. I've just been really, I've gotten to meet some really, really cool people. Really cool. I do remember senior year, I was directing. I was in a directing class, advanced directing, and so I was directing 2 one-act plays at Capitol in the theater, and there was this one outrageous comedy, and it was still, in my opinion, it's still the best thing I've ever directed, and it's because my cast was so good. Derek Gully and I'm drawing a blank on people's names. Jesse and oh my god, Tyrese. Gosh, I'm so sorry, everybody. But the 3 of them were the actors, and they were so funny. But there's this moment where somebody's supposed to like slam a chair down, and the chair broke, and no one saw it except my dad, who like crept along and was like, "Cedric, I think that chair is broken," or something like that. Or no, maybe it was broken before the show, and we had to like halt the show and go like replace the chair. So that was a fun moment of me like sneaking out to the stage manager and being like, "Hey, we gotta fix the chair." Anything else that was kind of wild? Oh, I remember one. I was doing a play. What play was it? A Very Long Engagement? I don't know. I was doing a play, and it was very warm in the theater. I think it was over winter, so the heat was really pushing through. And it was toward the end of Act 1, and I noticed this guy that was like sort of falling asleep in the front row. And of course, I'm like in character, very intense. This whole I can't remember what the show was, but it was really, really intense. And I kept seeing this guy, and I was like, I don't think he's doing very well. And I came off stage, and I was looking through the booth, and like he dropped, like he was not asleep. And I told the stage manager, I was like, "Hey, I think something's wrong with him." And they'd like halt the show 2 minutes before, and he had like passed out. He had like overheated, and they had to. I think they took him to the hospital. But that was not fun. But it's amazing. Like you try to be really in character, but there are times where you're just like, Beauty and the Beast. I would dance, be our guest. I was playing the Beast, and then the guy that played Gaston, he and I would like put our arms around each other and like do the kick line during Be Our Guest, which is fun. But then one time we didn't realize we were in the audience's eye line, and I looked out and I saw like 2 people pointing at us and laughing, and I was like, we gotta go. Also, I remember one time he, like opening night, I think he got his lip split open by one of the mugs during the Gaston scene, and then I think his wig fell off during like our big fight scene, and this is at a 3,000 seat theater, right? And his wig like fell off, and everybody was laughing, and I couldn't see that his wig had fallen off, and I was like, "What happened? Why are they laughing? This isn't funny." So that was interesting. Anyway, I just missed a bunch of things here. Marmars, I'm glad that my videos make you smile. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Ian, for everything that you're saying. Everyone on Sunset did put so much work into it. It was such a great experience. Ring Wraith, yep, that's fair enough. Playing Dimash before. Mac, what's my favorite place to eat near Capital? I really loved Stacey Bomb, which isn't there anymore. I loved crepes. Obviously, Cherbourg Bakery. I worked there for 5 years. I love Cherbourg. Outside of that, my favorite place to eat now, what's in the place of Stacey Bomb? It's like a sandwich shop. I can't remember. It's like meatloaf sandwiches, and it's so good. I think that would probably. Oh no, you know what it is? What's it called? Is it Piata? The Italian Chipotle. Ugh, we need that all over the country. That is so good. You guys have no idea. Like pasta wraps, like Chipotle, but pasta inside. Ugh, mwah, mwah, mwah. It was so good. I can't even describe to you how badly I miss it. Also, Canes. When I was in my younger and more vulnerable years, I could eat Canes, and I really liked that. So good. That Texas toast was absurd. How do I have time for work and reactions? Am I cool and charming? Well, I like to think I'm pretty cool and charming, but other people call me annoying and get out of my face. How do I have time for work and reactions? I don't, but I try to find it anyway. No, it's I budget your time, and reactions are in a way work. Like I'm stretching that part of my. Stacey Bomb was superior. Those crepes were so good. Ian, thank you. Ian's the one that taught me how to Pokemon battle on Pokemon Go. Also, I think Ian's part of the big reason why I bought the Wheel of Time books. I got all of them for Christmas, Ian. So, yeah, thanks for that. Also, I got the newest Stormlight Archive book right here. I haven't read it yet, but I'm very excited about it. So thanks for. We had so many good fantasy discussions. I can't even tell you. I missed a question up there. Shalette, as a director, what's your approach to guiding actors to feel what you're trying to express within a scene? I think reminding them of context is really, really important. So let's say it's a scene where, let's just make up a scenario. So like I don't know. Let's say there's like a 22-year-old. She's coming back to her parents' house. They're moving out. She didn't want them to move. This is the house she grew up in. And so they're kind of packing things up, and they've asked her to go through a room and decide what she's going to get rid of. Let's say that's the scenario. I'm making it up off the top of my head. And so she's going through things, and she's doing that thing where, when you were growing up and you'd like clean your room, and it would just turn into like a 6-hour thing because you keep finding things from your childhood and then playing with like the Hot Wheels and stuff. So let's say that she finds a doll in like underneath her bed, like a doll that she used to have a lot of childhood memories with. And for some reason, the actress is struggling with this scene. Reminding her of the context of the whole thing, why the doll was important to her as a kid. Maybe the doll's important. Maybe the doll is possessed. Maybe the doll is, XYZ. So reminding her, hey, here's the context of this doll. Here's why it's so important. But if that's not working, going with is there anything from your childhood that you can relate this to? Is there any memory that you can conjure up? Even if it's not the doll, is there a place you loved going to? Maybe you can associate it with that doll. So it's probably not in the script, right? But maybe the actress herself used to go on vacation to Maine, right? Used to go to Bar Harbor, Maine, let's say, with her family. And it was a place she really loved and she hasn't been in a long time. Well, what I might say is, okay, well, now I want you to picture you're in Bar Harbor in your favorite spot, watching the waves crash up on the boulders, which I assume are in Bar Harbor. I've never been there. But, and you have the doll. You have the doll. And now when you hold it, I want you to smell that seawater. I want you to smell that air. I want you to hear the seagulls and feel that Maine breeze coming in off the ocean. And I want you to hear the wind through the pines and hear the bells from the harbor. Like I want you to breathe in all of that. Kind of close your eyes and feel it. And if we have to all leave for a sec while she conjures that up, that's how I like to function as an actor. That's what I do. And then if that's not working, if it's still not working, then we might just say, okay, we'll just look at the doll. Just look at the doll and we'll make it work. We'll find music or something. But just feel something. And the big thing is always making sure they're doing it through their eyes. The actor should always be in their head, because we as people, right? I haven't done a lot of big expressions or big dramatic things, and it's important to drama that we have reverses and everything like that. Like, we have to dramatize things. Like this, I've really enjoyed the last 50 minutes of talking to you, but this wouldn't make a good movie. You know what I mean? It's not dramatic. It's not dramatically interesting. I hope it's interesting, but it's not dramatically interesting. So we have to heighten that realism. But at the same time, we want it to be subtle and contained, because people, like, the natural inclination of a human is to hide, like to hide emotions. It's a survival technique. And so pulling it back and trying to help the actor create sense memories or create emotion within themselves to really feel it. And also making sure that the pressure's off. Like, actors can get so in our own heads about how to pull off a certain scene. Like, I, as a person, I don't tend to cry. And so when scripts say I cry, often my thing is just like, okay, well, how can I feel like what that would feel like? It doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to cry, but how can it still be true? Like, the emotion of crying, not the emotion of crying, but the emotion of it. Does that make sense? So feeling that pain or that sorrow or that loss or whatever it is more important than the actual act of crying sometimes. Now, if the other character goes, hey, why are you crying? Okay, well, you should probably try to find some tears in that sense. But then sometimes you can get really, really lost in the moment. I was shooting a film last year, and there was a scene where the one where I watched Ave Maria right after it, because for whatever reason, I just really got blown away by the emotion of the scene. And I mean, tears. I mean, it was brutal. Chopin, yes, I do want to say hello. Hello. Hi. Hello. Glenn. Hello, hello, hello. OHIO. Winners of the Rose Bowl. Ian, I have to get the Mistborn series. I'm probably gonna read the next Stormlight just because I have it and I have a bunch of other books to get through, but I will read Mistborn. I will. You know what we need, Ian, is we need the Kingkiller Chronicles to get finished. Please. Johnny, pasta in a wrap or in a sandwich? What do you call them again? It's called piata. It's pasta in a wrap. So it's like it's not a tortilla, but it's sort of I don't know what it really is, but it's sort of an Italian version of a tortilla, and it's pasta inside it. And it's so good. It's so good. Also, I made some incredible burritos last night, and I just want to say that. I made really good burritos. Maheen, yes, you will get reactions to the latest to BTS webtoons. Yes, that will be happening. I assume that they're in the Bangtan universe. Johnny, I have not seen Econade. I've seen a lot of people asking for it, so that will be coming for sure. Be artful. As an actor, how hard is it to act effectively without overreacting? That is really hard. It's really hard to not overreact or overact and underact a scene. Ian was there for Sunset Boulevard, and a lot of that was like a lot of subtlety because it was a smaller theater, so I got to use camera technique, but it can be really hard. So the whole thing is like centering the emotion in the eyes, right? Like having it here, having presence exist in the eyes. That's super, super important for film technique, especially, but I think all the characters, because eyes are the windows to the soul. Like in a conversation, you can tell often if someone's lying or if someone's feeling something that they're trying to hide, or if they're being genuine. You can see that in their eyes. And so centering it there and honestly not overthinking it. I'm not someone that really gets heavy into technique or everything like that. I memorize my lines. I find the emotional truth of the scene. And then I try to sit in that and, feel the emotion of it. So we've talked about Shakespeare in this. Macbeth. Let's go with the movie of the day, right? Because the tragedy of Macbeth is out right now. The whole she should have died hereafter. There would have been time for such a word. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour on the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot signifying nothing. Full of sound and fury signifying nothing. That's the speech from Macbeth that everybody knows. That and out damn spot. But how do you not overact that? Well, I think a lot of actors think pausing is acting, and it's not. So pausing should be intentional. There should be some sort of thinking or anything like that that has to exist within that. And then, I think about the diction of it, that Shakespeare was brilliant. So he'd give us tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. There's a diction there. Creeps in this petty pace from day to day. There's percussivity to that. So how do I make it natural? Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time, to the last syllable, right? The T, even though you don't need to emphasize it, gives you a last syllable. There's already a natural brief pause there. Syllable, right? And I'm going to do a whole breakdown of that monologue that we've talked about before, but finding a way to deliver the lines as a human would is a big challenge. Like that's the first big challenge you overcome. And then you find the emotional truth. And then you figure out, okay, how do I say this without making it too big? So I try to not over rehearse or really overthink it. I just try to sit in it. You know what I mean? Yes, I've heard that Rothfuss is working on it, Ian, and I really need him to finish it, like very badly. I thought I saw something about accents. Accents are really hard. That's how you learn accents. You usually try to pick someone whose accent you like, and then just listen to them over and over and memorize it. And then you try to make it light. Like you don't want to overdo it. It can be very, very difficult. Oh, there's the question. How do you perfect an accent such as an American accent or a foreign accent? So you constantly work to perfect it. So for example, I learned my British one from a very young age because I would watch a lot of Harry Potter. And so it's very natural for me to just sort of try to flip into it. But you can hear, when I'm using it, you can hear a lot of that Daniel Radcliffe sort of influence on it, right? Because it sort of becomes more dry and more sort of middle London accent. And I said, that. So one of the big things with it, right, is finding the vowels. And so the British accent tends to not have as open American sound as like an right? That's like a very American sound, is to go And so one of the key things is to do when you're hesitating, go and then you start realizing that you close off words a lot faster, right? So words, you see how my mouth doesn't quite open as much. And then you start really working on the muscle memory. So for example, to go from British to Southern, you're not opening very much up here. And if you just sort of see how my jaw isn't really moving a lot to do the British accent. If you start moving it back and you just start moving it further back, all of a sudden you've got more Cockney Australian, and then all of a sudden you're back here, and now it kind of naturally falls into a Southern accent. And my mouth is a lot more open, but it's all just about the tension of the jaw, right? And I'm still sort of closing things off, but because I'm closing things off in the same way that I would with a British accent, but my jaw is moving more up front instead of back here, right? It's taking longer to close off the words. And so that's how you get the drawl, right? Is instead of, you're still closing things off at the exact same time, but the sound still comes out. So you're closing the vowel, right? So you can hear vowel, vowel, right? That's the exact same sound that you're making, but it just takes longer to actually close off the sound. Right. And so if you're taking, then you take the British accent and sort of want to make it more of an RP type. So you might, for me, that sort of naturally goes up a little bit, and it sort of has more of a musicality to it. There's less of a fall to it. There's a lot of people that think that the American accent is very flat, but naturally the British accent sort of is a lot more neutral. It's a lot, and I'm getting sort of northern in it, right? So if I want to go northern, there's going to be a lot of it's going to be kind of it's a beautiful accent to listen to, right? But it's sort of flowing, right? To go more northern British versus more of the RP might be a bit more musical. It's a bit more fun. It's more light. It's more playful. And so it's really finding the things that stick in your brain. What does that accent mean to you? What are the, one of the tough ones is Irish. So if you want to do Irish, you've got to sort of find the vowels. I mean, the I sound is really, really hard to nail. And I'm still working on the Irish, but like you've got to, people say working, right? But you're not, it can't be that over the top because that's not how most people talk. And obviously, the tough thing with most European accents is there's so much diversity in the way that they sound because it's so old. You know, people have been speaking in that way for such a long time that it's not like America where we're still developing accents. Like there's a difference between an Idaho accent. Ian can confirm this. There's a difference between a Washington accent and my Ohio accent, but they are subtle. There are subtle differences. Now, obviously, if you get down to Texas, right, that's going to be a little bit different than like a Louisiana, right? There's going to be a difference between those two accents versus the South Carolina drawl. There's going to be differences down there, but still, you're talking about a lot less different than in England where you might drive 20 minutes and it sounds like they're speaking a different language, right? And so for me, I'm just fascinated by like linguistics and the way that accents play out. And they're all based on somebody. Like my northern accent is sort of a combination of my friend Rob, who's done things with me before, and and Jon Snow, right? Kit Harington. So that low Jon Snow type voice. Versus like my Scottish, which I learned from my friend Emma, or Irish, which I've learned from just listening to different actors do interviews and trying to kind of mimic them in that. Like my friend Kevin, who's this great screenwriter, he has this delightful accent that I listen to his podcast and like try to learn it. And so I think accents are so fun to try to pick up. I love accents. And they're so subtle. Like mine is very standard American. I have a very standard American accent versus here in Rhode Island where the accent's a little bit Boston, right? We get the Carpac. So if you want to get Boston, you got to you get a little bit more aggressive and you drop your R's and everything like that. With Rhode Island, it's almost like I describe the Rhode Island accent as someone from New Jersey that thinks they can do a Boston accent. This is kind of the Rhode Island, what you'll hear a lot here. And so it's almost dropping the R's, right? Maine, the R's are gone. There's no R's, right? And so it's fascinating to hear the differences between all of them. I recently had to do like an Italian Jersey accent, and the tough thing for me is like I struggle to turn off accents. If I'm using them for more than a few hours, it just becomes part of my muscle memory. I've told this story before, but I was shooting something up in Cleveland. I was playing a British character for like a couple of days, and I was driving home, and somebody called me, and I was supposed to be doing like this interview, and they were like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "I'm from Ohio." They were like, "Oh, well, you've got an interesting accent." And I realized that I was still using the British accent because I'd been using it for a couple of days. And so I was still using this British accent. And they were like, you're from Ohio? That's interesting. Interesting. From Ohio, really? And even in Ohio, there's different accents. My accent is different than someone from Cleveland who might kind of stretch out their vowels a little bit, especially their A sound, versus someone from Cincinnati. Cincinnati? Why did I drop the I like that? It's so strange. So strange. Thank you, Ringwraith, for the accent game is an amazing thing. I'm working on it. Yes, Ian, you nailed it. Exactly. Playing with accents, slow down the enunciation and feel it out. Like be willing to make mistakes and sound terrible with it. It's just like doing impersonations, right? You have to to nail like a Gollum voice, you have to take your time working with it. CBG it just straight up is Kentucky. Yes, Cincinnati does drag out their O's. This is also very, very true. Let's see. There was a question about self-tapes. So self-tapes, for those of you that don't know, are auditions. They're at-home auditions. They're very, very popular right now because there's a pandemic going on. They renewed it for season 3, everybody. So self-tapes, one of the big things is lighting, just having professional lighting. So we're going to move the camera here, everybody. So, for example, I have these umbrella lights here, which kind of do a natural diffusion. So, for example, if I was going to move those, right, I might create extra. So see how flipping that around, I've created this shadow of the brim on my head. Now you're not going to notice as much. Sorry for the hat here. See how that creates some fall off here and some contrast right here on my face versus if I go here. See how much more naturally that's diffused? See how that's playing in? Now that creates some little bit of shadow here, a little bit of shadow here. So I have this other one that's a little bit lower that's basically acting as a keyframe. So it's filling in my face. Now I shoot all my auditions against this blank wall over here. So you always want to have a blank wall that's not distracting. So right at the edge of my bookshelf, I have a blank white wall, right? And I can plug my lights in right there, set up my frame. And then the big thing is, especially with self-tapes, oh, I guess we're going half backwards. That was, I wonder why I did that. Whatever. We're going to roll with it. Let's do it. With self-tapes, like, don't worry as much about it. I think maybe that's really, really helpful. Like, don't stress as much about it. Find the truth of the character. Like, find a few keywords that really influence the character, and make choices. Don't be afraid of the character. You can't be afraid of the character. If you're afraid of the character, it's going to show. All auditions are meant to show fear, right? So yeah, do your technique. Like, try to limit your blinking if the character is very serious, or make sure you've got eye lines. Obviously make sure that you're like, the lines, everything like that. Like you've thought about it. You've considered the character. No, the hat hair hasn't been intentional this entire time, Ian. Thank you. But don't be afraid to take risks with the character, but also don't try to get noticed. You know what I mean? Like, make sure that what you're doing is true and real, and that's going to play through. Now, it may not be exactly what they want, but I guess maybe that's the other big thing with any audition you're ever doing ever. Do not try to be what they want. Be what you think the character is. Because if you try to be what they want, you will miss, and you won't be happy with what you do, and they won't be happy with what you do. If you try to be what you think the character is, they may not be happy with it, but you can't control that. Don't try to read their minds. Find what you think the truth of the character is. And if you show enough, if you show that you know how to act, right, then they might send it back and go, hey, try to do this. Well, great. Direction. Awesome. Take that and with it. Find a new choice for the character. But you want to make sure you do that, right? Make sure that you have a non-distracting background, that you have some nice flat lighting, that make sure they can see your eyes, make sure all of that, make sure that, there's not a helicopter flying over. Call the FAA, say, hey, listen, I need 10 minutes. But make sure that we can hear your voice. Make sure that the person reading isn't a ton louder than you, right? Like, they should be quieter. Make sure the audition is you, but just make sure that you're living in it. Like, just live in it. Don't put all this pressure on it, because you're probably not going to book it. That's just the way it is. You don't book the vast majority of the things you audition for. So just take it as an opportunity to play a character and have fun, and make sure that you're loving it. Like, find a way to love the character, even if they're evil. Like, just, you have to be them and justify them. I hope that makes sense. I don't know. Gillette also has a good point. Find someone to help you with setup and provide you with truthful feedback if, the framing's off, right? So in a self-tape, you don't want to look in the camera, because we don't do that in film. We don't look into the camera usually. You want to look just off camera. So you might find a point like right there where you can look and it looks like you're looking at someone, right? And if you've actually got someone that's there, look in the eye that is closest to the camera, because that's going to turn your face more, right? If I'm kind of picturing a person that's right there, if I'm looking there versus looking here, I mean, you're talking about like a mile, right? And that would just be flipping between a person's eyes. And that's huge on screen. So you want to look there. And then if you want to be intense, for example, if you really want people to listen to what you're saying and really zero in on what you're saying, then maybe you don't blink, because it makes you more interesting. Now, don't make it this whole thing to see how long you can go without blinking, but see what you can do with it. Play around with it. Versus maybe if you want to be weaker, or if you want to be more romantic or intimate with it, or maybe you're confused, that's a good moment to flicker or blink a little bit. So it's everything, kind of like that. Crave Trance, what projects do I have coming up that I'm excited about that I can talk about? Yeah, the film that I was shooting that got halted due to COVID is really, really beautiful. They're going to shoot in February. that I'm in love with that script. So I'm really excited to get back to do that. I'm doing a really fun sort of D&D based film next week, which I'm really, really excited about. I think that's going to be really, really fun. So that's kind of it. That's locked in as an actor. There's a bunch of other things that are kind of circling overhead, but I've got some scripts that I'm ready to shoot that I'm really excited about, that are drama with a little bit of comedy involved, features, and I'm really excited to get back and actually get making a feature. I just locked in a couple of projects that I've been working on for a while that I'm really, really proud of, that took a lot of effort, and locked in the edits of those. And so those are exciting. I've got a new script that actually takes place in the Palouse that I'm going to be working on soon, which I think Michael and I talked about a little bit. It's evolved since then into a new thing, but that's one of my new projects. I've got at least 2 pilots that I'm going to be working on writing, that are really, really exciting to me. And so there's just, I'm taking each opportunity as they come. A couple of the recent films that I've worked on. Forbearance, I think I'm really excited about that. I think it's going to be really good. Window with a View, this movie that I shot, I'm not allowed to talk about, in October. I'm really excited about that, to see how that comes out. I think it's going to be really, really great. How are you only just hearing about it? Because I was casting it like last week. So that's how. It's fun. It's a fun little film. So I don't want to say too much about it because I haven't signed any like NDAs or anything, but I still don't want to spoil it. So keep your eyes open for that. How would I, as an actor, master a complex character like a villain? What are the do's and don'ts for playing a villain? Yeah, I mean, the don'ts are, and this is just a rule as an actor. Don't be be a villain when the camera's rolling, not when it's not. Right? Like, don't be weird. You know what I mean? So there's you have to know how to turn it off. And you have to be able to feel the room and make sure that if you're going to, so Sunset Boulevard, I don't necessarily think there is a villain, but from my character's perspective, the villain is clearly Norma Desmond. And Madison, who was playing Norma in our production of Sunset Boulevard, is just an extraordinary actor, who easily could have stepped onto Broadway and played that role and won a Tony for it. She was just such a delight to work with. And there were several physical interactions where we would, play it up, and maybe she would be grabbing my face or slap me or something like that. But we would always have a conversation about it. And that's really important. If you're going to interact with somebody, if you're going to do something, now the actor might say, no, don't tell me, I want to be surprised. And fine, that's up to them. I've heard of that working for people. But for me, I'm always going to try to inform someone, because you don't want to be that person. You just don't. So again, the complexity is people generally aren't born villains. Something has happened in their lives, or there was some series of choices that they made. So finding the human in that, there's always there's a human inside Darth Vader, right? And he's evil, right? But there's a human inside that. There's something inside that led him to where he is. If we think about right now, there's a bunch of us on this live call, right? There's a bunch of us hanging out here having this chat, and think about, and this may be disappointing for some of you since you're choosing it to spend it with me, but every choice that you've made in your life, everything that has ever happened to you, has led you to this moment right now where we are all on YouTube together, right? Everything you've ever done has led you to this moment right here, right now. And the same is true of a villain. The same is true of a villain. And so when they are doing something truly evil, that past still exists for them. And so I think leaning into that and remembering again, turn it off. And it's okay if you need to take a moment to get out of character, whatever that process is. I'm not a method actor. I know people that are, right? And so respecting other actors' boundaries and saying, okay, well, they need to get into character, so I can't joke with them right now, right? Versus other actors who, when I'm playing villains, I try to joke. That's something I actively try to do once they call cut or whatever. I try to ease the tension. because I don't want to make people uncomfortable. Now, if the other actor goes, hey, no, let's stay in it. Cool. I don't want to stay in it. So that just means I won't interact with them. Right. So it's really just about like reading people and having honest conversations and respect. Like respect everybody, respect the background actors, respect the director, respect the other actors, respect the producer, respect the production assistants, respect the grips and the gaffs and the electricians and the sound mixers and the costume people and the carpenters that are building the next set. Like just respect everyone and respect their boundaries as artists. And if you mess something up, like apologize for it, and that can be tough. I've had interactions before where people were maybe intending to be respectful and weren't, even if they were bringing things up, like things that were valid concerns. And you have to just kind of gut check and go like, okay, well, I feel disrespected, but I don't think they intended it that way. Or there's times where you go, no, they did. And that's problematic. And you have to figure out how to work through that too. But just remember that you're a villain on screen or on stage. Don't be one off. We have enough of those. Are we going to have another opportunity to hang out? Yeah, come on over to Rhode Island. But yeah, if we go shoot this thing in the Palouse, that'd be great. It's the hills. The Palouse is really cool, everybody. That was like hiking in the Palouse was one of the coolest things I've done. Like it's such a unique area of the country, of the United States, up in the eastern side of Washington. Like I thought there were going to be like rainforests and stuff and mountains. And it was like these gorgeous rolling hayfields and like canyons and like deserts and it was buttes. And so it was a very cool place. I really, really enjoyed it. I think we'll maybe hang out for 10 to 15 more minutes. So does anybody else have any questions? This has been really fun. I've really, really enjoyed it. Anybody have anything else they want to toss in here? Any hot button questions? Why is Star Wars The Last Jedi so good? Good question. Yes, Ian, breathtaking Madison brought me to tears so many times. Yeah, Madison Merlanti is really good. Also, go follow her on TikTok because her makeup is like absurd. Like so good. So good. There's a lot of people you should follow. I've worked with really, really incredible people. Like the fact that I've only been doing this professionally for, half a decade or so excites me so much for the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, because the people that I've met, like John Wells, like one of the most kind, lovely, warm, terrifying people that I've ever met. Madison, so gifted, such an actress, such a singer, such a dry, sarcastic, wonderful person to spend time with. I've met extraordinary artists, and I'm always so grateful for that. And whether some of the most talented actors I've worked with have left the industry during this pandemic because they can't keep up with it, and that's heartbreaking. But also, that's the reality of it. So, as an actor, how would you portray real life issues like being a domestic abuser or being a serial killer throughout your performance? Would you make the character's intentions obvious or subtle? Well, a lot of that is the script. Are they obvious in the script itself? Is that a plot twist or what? Because obviously if it's a plot twist, I'd make it subtle. I have played those characters. I've played a domestic abuser more than once. I've played a serial killer. I've done those things. And so it all kind of comes down to what and how they are. Is it a person that's trying to hide it? Is it a person that's bluntly obvious about what they're doing? Is it for like a domestic abuse character? Like, is it a person who's like button up, like clean cut, nobody would ever suspect it? Or is it like the clear villain from the get-go, right? And still imbuing them with humanity, because very rarely are people just monsters. And I know that that's a slippery slope. Okay, so I want to establish like people do bad things. And sometimes they are bad people, and that's that. But I think it's much more dramatically interesting if they weren't always a bad person and something happened. And that does not excuse what they do, but it does inform what they do. And in the end, all choices are choices, right? Like circumstances do not dictate what you've done. You have to choose to do these things. But I just like just being someone that's evil would be so boring. Like you have to find the the world that they're in and justify these things while you can still think it's disgusting that they're doing it. Um, but would I make the intentions obvious or subtle? Sometimes there's transformations throughout the scene. Maybe they're subtle and become obvious as they see an opening. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that answered it, but I don't know. Think about like Palpatine in the prequel trilogy. Ian McDiarmid didn't have to worry about hiding that he was not the good guy, right? And so, while it may be subtle to everyone else in the scene, it's really obvious to us as the viewer, and that is still interesting because now we know something that the audience doesn't know, and that creates tension. Versus sticking within Star Wars, like Kylo Ren later on, like the battle there is much more subtle and internal. To go outside of Star Wars, like Voldemort, pretty evil from the get go. You know what I mean? Not a great guy. Versus like Moody in the fourth movie, where really subtle. Like the fact that licking the lips and drinking the potion is all you really get to hint that no, not a good guy, right? And so you have to lean into that. Like most Marvel villains, pretty obvious, but they're still justified. Like Thanos has a reason for what he's doing. Because villains aren't interesting when they're just let me kill, let me destroy. Like that's not compelling dramatically. How do you go about recruiting named talent for productions? With difficulty. No, it's I think I tend to write my scripts with intention behind who I would like to have play the part, and sometimes I actually get that person. Like with Corbin Burnson playing Grandpa George in Kadia, like he's who I wanted, and having him like I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but right here on my wall and all my reactions, that is the title page from Kadia with Corbin's autograph on it and saying, Cedric and Team Kadia, great to be a part of your maiden voyage. And like that's something I will always treasure, and like knowing him and his spirit of as a creator and as an artist has been such a joy. So sometimes you just get it. Like you send an email to the manager saying, hey, here's the script and we want him for this part. I like to put in like why I want them for the part, right? So saying, hey, I am really excited about, I want Brad Pitt for this part because he's beautiful. No, it's saying, maybe there's a personal reason that you think the actor would be really interested. Bye, Ian. Thank you so much. Michael, hello. Tell Michael I said hi. Have a blessed day. Love back to all of you and to Cal. And I hope you're all great. Keep it up. You guys are terrific. Yeah. So what was I saying? Yeah, sometimes you just pitch it personally. Sometimes you discover an artist and you're like, wow, that's extraordinary. I love them. You just send them a message and go, hey, I think you'd be perfect in this part. Well, probably not them a message, their agent. Hey, I noticed them in this and I thought they were brilliant and I'd really like them for this role. And they may say no. If you have the money, that's another thing. Because then you can just be like, we'd like to pay X. And then they're a lot more interested all of a sudden because they want to get paid for what they've spent their whole life studying how to do. And that makes sense. Thomas Child Reborn, what do you think makes a good headshot, and what are your tips for a professional acting headshot? What makes a good headshot is character. Is there character in that? I'm not a believer in taking headshots in like scrubs and a lawyer suit. I don't necessarily buy into that quite as much as I might. Sorry, I thought I got a text that my flight had been moved, which was concerning, but it hasn't been. What was I saying? Headshots. So making sure that there's like character and energy beyond obviously like there needs to be something compelling. Like it shouldn't look like a school photo, for the yearbook. But what is the most interesting feature about you? Do you have perfect eyebrows? Do you have a special light that kind of jumps up into your eyes? Do you have an incredible smile? What makes you stand out as a performer? And what makes you interesting? And how do you highlight that? How do you highlight who you are? Right. So yeah, there needs to be character. There needs to be but we can't tell if you're a good actor because of a picture. You know what I mean? We can tell a little bit about your personality. And how do we see, like, you don't want to give people a reason to not hire you. And so is there something in your attitude in that photo that is compelling, and this is a person that I feel like I could maybe trust with this responsibility? And what makes it a good shot? I think depth of field, not having a distracting background, but not having a boring one either. Uh, having some texture in it. There's a lot of headshots out there, some good, some bad, but just look up acting headshot Instagram hashtag or something, and look through them and go, well, who would I want to cast? And is there anything that's hyper compelling out of that? And going, okay, well, how could I recreate this? How would this highlight my strengths? Is a good approach to have, because then you're kind of going to go, what works for me? It's the same way of learning how to direct a film or write, is reading screenplays and going, well, what about this is working for me? Why did that shot, work? Why do I love Dutch angles so much? As those of you that watch my reactions know, why do I love Dutch angles? They just really work for me. Like, I find them really interesting, and that they add a lot of character to a moment. And they almost always enhance what I'm seeing. And so I think that you have to figure out how your headshot can do that. Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna pop off here. I have to shoot. Speaking of headshots and auditions, I have to shoot some auditions, and then panic about the Bengals for a couple hours. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for hanging out. I hope you had a good time. Please make sure to drink some water, which I haven't done once during this, so I need to go drink some. Drink lots of water. Please fix your posture, which I've tried to remember to do throughout. And be well, and just take care of yourselves. And I'm glad we got to hang out. Go Bengals, Hoo Day. Yes, indeed. I'll see all of you in the future. I've got some new reactions hopefully coming out next week. Hopefully, if I can get them taped before I leave, I'll be posting. If I can't, try to keep you guys updated as usual. But thank you for hanging out, and I hope you had fun. I'll see you next time. But until then, parahe, take care of yourselves. Be well. I'll see you.